All right, now we're going to move on to playing and recording MIDI. Couple of ways of doing this. If you have a MIDI controller, you could use that. The other way is to use your computer keyboard to play in the notes. So to do that, we need to go to the top right-hand corner up here, and you'll see a little piano bar there. Click that on. That will enable you to use your computer keyboard to play in the notes. I happen to have a MIDI controller here, so I'm not going to use the keyboard. Now, the other thing to know, there's this little arrow up the top here. If this is engaged, this allows us to overdub MIDI, which means you can play in, say, a kick drum, and then you can leave that on, play in your snare drum, and it'll all get recorded, and you can play over the top of all the tracks or all the notes that you've recorded until you're satisfied with what you've done. So I've got that on. The other thing we'll do, we go over to the left. I'm just going to put on a 2-bar count in so that I know when to come in. All right, so we might get started on that. Okay, the other thing I forgot to do was just adjust my loop length. So I'm going to change it to 2 bars again. Let's give this a go. So nothing too extravagant. Just created a basic beat there. One thing I did notice, a lot of this percussion stuff is probably a little bit loud in the mix. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust some of these velocities just to make them sit in the mix a little nicer. There. All right, hopefully that's made a bit of a difference. Okay, the other thing I like to do is just to go through and just quantize these and sort of snap them to the grid a little cleaner. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of movement, but I think I was a little sloppy on some of those hits. So best way to do that is shift and just click on the piano roll, and you can do right click, quantize, and that'll snap these hits to the grid. Rim shot. Actually, I might just move these rim shots just manually while I'm down here. I'll snap that back there, and the other one. It's nice. Okay, and that should have us fairly well lined up. So let's have a play and see what that sounds like. Cool, fairly simple. The other thing you can possibly do, just to make it a little more interesting, maybe add a little bit of reverb, and then maybe even some delay for something like this. Just might add a bit more syncopation and make it sound a little bit more intricate than it actually is. So let's have a play and see what that sounds like. Cool, fairly simple, fairly effective, and you can sort of be as creative as you'd like with that. That's about it for drawing and playing and recording MIDI.